Welcome to the David Pakman Show. I am, of course, not David Pakman. I am Benjamin Dixon, host of the Benjamin Dixon Show, and host of the upcoming show To The Point that will be hosted by or distributed by Revere Press. Excited to be here with you. David is out of town. He's on his way to Las Vegas for a conference, and he will be broadcasting from Las Vegas for the remainder of the week. Let's jump right into the news. Just one day after Donald Trump called for the resignation of his Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen, it is being reported that he has asked the Secret Service Chief Randolph to step down as well. Now, the Secret Service is a part of the Homeland Security, and they are the administration is saying that this is a part of a broader shakeup to move in a different direction with regard to Homeland Security. But there's a lot of things happening underneath this firing, or at least this resignation of the Secret Service chief. The White House has confirmed that Alez is leaving. However, according to CBS and the BBC, the White House won't confirm whether or not Trump is asking him to step down or whether or not it was an outright firing. Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders has announced that James Murray will be taking over in the position. And so there's a lot happening here. Notwithstanding the fact that Donald Trump has fired or has had resigned so many positions, and that we are operating with a skeleton government, that we have people in positions who are clearly not qualified for it. That's the backdrop of this story, right? That Donald Trump is filling positions with acting secretaries so that he can circumvent the Senate approval process. All of that is in the backdrop. But there's another thing that's happening in the backdrop that makes this particular story extremely concerning, as well as something that requires more investigation. Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, has called for the outgoing chief to testify before Congress, specifically surrounding a security breach that we found out about yesterday, on Monday. Now, yesterday it was reported that a Chinese national by the name of Yung Zhang was arrested after getting access to Mar-A-Lago under false pretenses. And as they investigated her and they searched her room, they found, I believe it was 9 USB flash drives, thumb drives, 5 SIM cards, multiple debit cards, and about $8,000 in cash. And they also found on this Chinese national, a radio frequency device that helped detect hidden cameras. Now, all of that being said, it feels as though the timing of this is a little too close to not take it in consideration in terms of the firing. Of course, the Trump administration is saying that them firing or having the Secret Service chief step down is not tied to this whatsoever. And even Alez, at least a report is coming out that he was asked to resign 10 days ago before this news broke or before this incident happened. Regardless, there's so many things that happen at Mar-A-Lago that involve the Secret Service, so many different security breaches and so many unethical things that take place at Mar-A-Lago. Just the pay to play, right? The ability for people to pay $200,000 to get access to not just Donald Trump, but to the White House, the administration, national security issues, to be in the environment where these types of things these decisions are being made because the president spends an obscene amount of time at his resort. So there's so many things that are going on. So even if we can't tie this firing directly to the apprehension of this Chinese national, who, by the way, they're still investigating. It's nothing concrete. We don't know the true intentions of whether or not this was some type of espionage. We don't know. That remains to be seen. But for these two things to basically happen on the same day, the day we find out about the Chinese national is the same day that Trump asked, or at least that it is announced, that the Secret Service chief steps down. It sets off red flags. And Chuck Schumer subsequently said that requested that the outgoing Secret Service chief come and testify before the Senate so that they can ascertain and investigate what was going on. Now, this, again, the second backdrop that you have to take in consideration is Donald Trump really not having an administration not having an administration that's led by people who are confirmed by Congress, having a significant amount of resignations almost since the very first day, having fired quite a few people. I mean, we really are working with an administration that is filled with incompetent people. And this is not hyperbole. This is not just a way of slamming Donald Trump, but quite literally people who are unqualified for the job, number one. And then Donald Trump assigning and appointing people by circumventing the Senate approval process. And then furthermore, he's assigning people and appointing people who are specifically and uniquely qualified at undermining the institutions for which they are required to cover and to lead. So this just shows you the type of chaos that Donald Trump likes to operate in. It may have something to do with loyalty. Sure, I'm sure there's a lot of theories out there that Donald Trump will fire anyone who does not express a direct oath of loyalty to him. But I also think that this is just a type of environment that Donald Trump likes to operate in. There are some leaders who would rather run with nothing than to have people around them that remotely challenge them. And this, again, this isn't to make it seem as though any of these people who are working for Donald Trump are noble people. But as David covered yesterday, the firing of Kirstjen Nielsen, she did just about everything she could possibly do for Donald Trump. And once it came to a point where she said, OK, well, we have to obey the law. This is not to defend her by any measure. But Donald Trump betrayed her because she would not put herself in even further damage, in further peril by breaking the law on behalf of Donald Trump. So that loyalty oath that Donald Trump requires, I think, is a reasonable way of understanding why he has no one around him. But I also think that another way of understanding why we have such a fragmented administration is simply because Donald Trump loves to operate in chaos. And there are a lot of leaders who operate in chaos because in chaos, they can get away with everything they want to get away with.
Today's program is sponsored in part by Blinkist.com/Pakman. If you've not already heard about Blinkist, it's amazing. It's an app for your phone, tablet, or web browser. And what they do is they take nonfiction books, popular nonfiction, critically acclaimed nonfiction. They condense the book into a 15-minute audiobook. You get all the most important information and insights from each book, but you can soak up the entire essence of the book in one sitting. I've listened to a ton of books on Blinkist. One recent one is Robert Reich's new book, The Common Good. Also Bunk by Kevin Young, useful in preparing me for the pseudoscience miniseries that we're producing. And if you are a David Pakman Show viewer or listener, you can get a 7-day free trial by going to Blinkist.com/Pakman. If you're watching on YouTube, use the link in the video description. After the free trial, if you like it, you can get the full access to thousands of condensed audiobooks for about $5 a month. That's BLINKIST.com/PAKMAN.